everybody. It's time, once again, for another episode of the NBP Show. And as always, I'm your host, Commissioner Dalt, bringing you the latest news here in NBP action. This week, we saw Old World versus New World, Ancient Empires in Tar and Feather, Beheaded Kings in Deep Dark, Cold Hearts, and Salt Works for a total of 12 matchups between two conferences. So, we're going to start it off with Cold Hearts versus Salt Works. We had number 4, Blood Moon Wanderers, taking on number 1, Mork's Orcs. And the Orc team here, coached by Fury of Anon, has had a fantastic season so far. They have been undefeated going into this game with a record of 3-0 up against Blood Moon Wanderers, who at the time were 1 draw and 2 losses. So there was a chance for an upset here, and that's just what we saw. It was a great defensive game by both coaches, but surprisingly, the Necro team and the Werewolves were able to outbash the Orc team and result in a 1-0 victory for the 4th place squad. So that could potentially shake up Saltworks division, or are the Orcs too far ahead? We'll find out at the end of the division here, but we're going to move on over to Wapley Wanderers taking on Praise the Joe. That is S130 South taking on Knockout Joe. We had Dark Elves versus Humans, and this was a pretty even matchup. There was some bash to be had by both teams, and a touchdown to be had by both teams. So at the end of the day, it shook out even for both of these squads, 1-1. So Praise the Joe able to make a 1-point advantage, catch up on the trail there in Saltworks division. But would it be enough to take first place? And kind of the same for Wapley Wanderers here. They needed some traction there in Cold Hearts division. They were coming off of a win, but the draw helps them out nonetheless. Gets them an extra league point there for a total of 3. Now, to the high scoring games of this intra-conference matchup week, we have the Halloween Plebs, another Necro team, taking on Blitz Among Us, a vampire squad. So we had an undead matchup here. We had the Halloween Plebs, coached by JG, up against Blitz Among Us, Godzillos. And the vampires were not able to find their footing here. They kind of fell back to form of the earlier season, as they didn't manage to score any touchdowns. I believe the Thrall armor situation gave them a lot of trouble, and the Necro team was able to outbash the vampires and score a total of 3 touchdowns there. That's a pretty big margin there, and that would help him gain some league points and potentially gain some footing over the first place Pollinaire Keg Killers, which are up next. The Pollinaire Keg Killers, the dwarf team coached by Bubba Tattoo, up against the Meat Men, a chaos team coached by Joe Cole. They're still looking for their first win here in NBP action, and look on they will as they got blanked in a 3-0 showing against the Dwarfs. I watched this game live, and it looked like it was going to be very even. It was 1-0 for quite some time. The Meat Men were driving and trying to, even it up, and then the dice just went cold. A few blitz actions that went the other way could have resulted in a tie or even a win for the Meat Men. I'm sure that could be said for a lot of Blood Bowl games, but that was definitely the case here because there was a lot of opportunity for the Meat Men to equalize, and the dice just fell cold, and once they fell cold, the injuries kept coming for the Chaos Squad, and the the Dwarves managed to, pound the ball in 2 more times to get that 3-0, which that is going to square away our divisions for Week 4 and decide our matchups for Week 5. At the top of Cold Hearts, and also at the top of Saltworks. We'll just do it down the line. We got Bubba Tattoo and Polynair Keg Killers, 3-1-0 out of Cold Hearts. And then Fury Venon Morks Orcs, 3-0-1 out of Saltworks. Now, second place, JG and Halloween Plebs, 3-0-1. And then Knockout Joe, Praise the Joe, 1-2-1 in Saltworks. Third place teams, Omega Deviant and Blood Moon Wanderers, they're 1-1-2. And then Godzilla's Blitz Among Us, they're also 1-1-2. That's the third place teams for Cold Hearts and Saltworks, respectively. Now, fourth place is S130 South and Wapley Wonders. They're 1-1-2 out of Cold Hearts. And then Joe Cole and the Meatman, 0-0-4 for fourth place in Saltworks. Still, they managed to get a touchdown last week, their first touchdown here in MVP, but they still haven't got their first win or draw, so no league points going that way for them. Now we'll move on up the card. Moving on up the card is our Beheaded Kings versus Deep Dark. We'll start it off at the bottom. Fourth place of BK going up against first place of Deep Dark. That sees Small and Mighty and Kodak Cookie squaring off against former commissioner and returning Nuffle Series champion, Get Confident Stupid, aka Cozy, Coach Cozy there. And this was actually the first team to score on Get Confident Stupid this season was Small and Mighty. They managed to get a throw teammate touchdown with a goblin from the Ogre team over the Lizards there. You know, he just scooped up that little gobbo and threw him on down the field, and he ran on in for a touchdown. Always beautiful to see that throw teammate touchdown work, and it did in this game, but that would not be enough because Get Confident Stupid had scored before that, and then after that they got the ball back and managed to use their lizard strength to their advantage, tie up those ogres, knock down those noblars, and run the ball in with a skink for the 2-1 victory to remain undefeated here in NBP-Pro action. Now, we go to the third place versus the second place. A Bag of Chodes, a dwarf team coached by Blake Nuts 666, going up against Malevolent Malware, coached by DK. Coach DK and his Chaos Squad lined up on the pitch for their game against the dwarf team, and for right from the get-go, it was a bash fest. I mean, that's kind of what you expect when you get on the pitch with dwarfs and or chaos, and then you throw them into the same bowl, and you get blood. That's why they call it Blood Bowl, folks, and it was a brutal matchup. I say that a lot about a lot of matchups on this show, but that's the best way to describe this beautiful game that we know as Blood Bowl, as it was a tactical game, a very, very tactical game between these coaches. Another defensive showing between the two. Malevolent Malware has only had one touchdown scored on them going into this game, and they do just that in this one as well, having no touchdown scored on them in this game, and they also managed to score very, very late in the game. I caught the replay of this one on Cabal Vision, and the dwarf team had some chances to score, but they were just quelled by the Beastman and a few Chaos Warriors getting in there and punching down on the shorter players, using that strength advantage of the Chaos Warriors to kind of break free on their offensive drive and stall out the game toward the end. There was some very, very close calls, though, because the Dwarves almost stopped the Meatmen there at the very last of the game. They had a Hail Mary type play where the Longbeard made a crazy dodge and went after the ball carrier, but I think he failed the GFI after making, a 4+5+ dodge, something like that. And so that results in a 1-0 victory for the Meatmen. Now, we go up to Boxing Clever, the second place out of Beheaded Kings, up against In the Shadows, third place out of Deep Dark. That is former champion Wheelie 365 going up against former Tar and Feather division winner. In the Shadows, we got Orcs versus Vampires. And in this matchup, kind of more of the same with the Vampire teams. They've been inconsistent this season, and I think that's just due to dice. It seems the case with both the Vampire teams has been their dice. And then the fact that the Thralls can't really stay on the pitch too well. And then the other teams have been, using that man advantage to kind of have their way with the other team. Although this win would not be that bad, the defense would hold pretty strong for In the Shadows. But Boxing Clever and those Orcs would devise some clever plays and box their way into the end zone for the 1-0 touchdown. They do remain undefeated, but they do have a tie, maybe 2 ties. They have 2 ties. I'm looking at the standings right here. But they are undefeated, Boxing Clever. And so they'll hold strong with 2 more league points. Now, first place, Orion Magics, coached by Pong Hines here. Coach we've seen in the postseason and the Nuffle Challenge Series quite often. Very few seasons that he hasn't made the playoffs. Going up against Cook 9000 and NWO. So we got Wood Elves versus Chaos. And you would expect some Wood Elves to get hurt. And they did. But there was also some Chaos hurt in this game. It was very, very level pegging there. We had the Wood Elves delivering just as much bash as the Chaos. The Chaos team did manage to injure, badly hurt their tree man though. So they kind of had the strength advantage for a while, but the levy would end up breaking as it was tied 1-1, maybe 2-1 against NWO, or it was 2-0 against NWO, and they got a touchdown after a re-rolling one dodge from a War Dancer who was carrying the ball. Extra Arms guy scooped up that ball and stepped in for the 1 versus 2. And then the kick situation, they kicked it very, very deep, pinned the Chaos squad into the back of their own zone, and then went down and retrieved that ball to make it 4-1 2 more times. They scored 2 more times to make it 4-1. So they also remain undefeated, the Orion Magics. They are 2-2-0, just like Boxing Clever. Touchdown differences are really the only difference. Now, SPP-wise, probably is the same. Let me get a drink of water. This is very, very, okay, making sure we're good on time, too, while I take my drink here. See, this is the part where if I edited these videos, you wouldn't see this. But because I do edit these videos, or don't edit these videos, I should say, is you will see this. Always got to stay hydrated. Keep the throat nice and moist. So, the divisions standings for Beheaded Kings versus Deep Dark are the following. Pong Hines in first, 2-2-0. That's Beheaded Kings. Kamikoze Get Confident Stupid, 4-0 out of Deep Dark. Now, second place, Wheelie 365 and Boxing Clever, 2-2-0. Followed by DKM 96 Malevolent Malware, 3-0-1 for Deep Dark. Now, Blinknut 666 and Bag of Chodes, that's 1-1-2 for third place in BK. Then we go on down to Shushnik and In the Shadows. They're 1-0-3 for third place out of Deep Dark. Now, Kodak Cookie, Small and Mighty, they're 0-1-3 in Beheaded Kings for fourth place. And then Cook 9000 and NWO are 0-0-4. They did get a touchdown, I believe, they had a touchdown like last week or week before and got another one in this week, I think is the standings. No, those are the fully updated standings. So they were actually scoreless and winless going into this game, and then they get their first touchdown, but they still haven't got their first league points, so we're still rooting for them to do just that. Now, we're going to go over to A&E, which is Ancient Empires, versus Tar and Feather. So I would normally start at the bottom like I did the rest, but that's mine, and I always save mine for last because I tend to ramble on about my own game. So we'll start it off at first place, Ancient Empires, The Haunting of Men, versus fourth place out of Tar and Feather, The Cure. So Undead versus Nurgle. Jonah 2005 UK versus Play Bear. So another Undead matchup. This was kind of the week of, the dead guys going at it. And this would be another very physical game. The Haunting of Men actually had enough inducements to take a Halfling Master Chef, which they used to absolutely steal almost every reroll from The Cure in like both halves of the game. And doing so would put the Cure at a disadvantage. They tried to play very aggressive, had some chances to score early, but the dice weren't there, and then the defense of the Undead squad kind of got in the way as well, resulting in not scoring. And then later on in the second half, very, very late in the game, the Haunting of Men would score to make it 1-0 and seal the game up and seal another victory for this 4-0 Undead team. Now, second place out of Ancient Empires is NBP Park Life going up against Fantastic Dr. J and the Turf Pirates. That's actually, I think that's incorrect. Let me double check that. I don't think that was the matchup there. No, it was not the matchup. I have those swapped out. So the matchup there was actually second place. I've got them flip-flopped up here. The second place matchup was Nagarath Bolts versus the Turf Pirates. And that was Dark Elves versus Chaos Dwarfs, former champion Legend T969, up against Rebel Knight, NBP veteran here. And this game was very, very even, despite the fact that you would think with all the Claw Almighty Blow and all the piling on and the scary, scary kill pieces that the Turf Pirates have, they would cause a whole lot more damage, which I did believe they caused damage, but I don't think it was a whole lot of lasting damage and enough damage to make a huge difference in the game, as the Nagarath Bolts did manage to use their agility advantage to run all over the field and score a touchdown. But then on the opposite side of the ball, the Turf Pirates used their strength to, push their way down the field and score for another touchdown. So a very balanced 1-1 for these two teams. And I'm going to flip back over to the records, so I'll have those for later. Let's see. I've got my computer up here. Okay. So then we go on down to the third place matchup, which actually was NBP Park Life, and the Orc team, coached by Fantastic Dr. J, taking on Thundercats. Ho! That's the Thundercats FC up against the NBP Park Life, the Wood Elves versus the Orcs. And this was the second place versus third place game, with the FC being the second place team out of Tar and Feather. And they have a big, bad, scary tree man with a strength up that kind of bashes his way all over the field. But despite the fact of him being out there bashing some orcs, the orcs manages to still, hit those soft wood elves, crack through those scraps of leather, and get some, Kazas out on the pitch, and use that man advantage to score 1-0. And I believe that was a late score. I admittedly didn't catch the replay, and neither of these guys gave me a heads up on anything, crazy happening in the game. But it seemed like a 1-0 draw, or a 1-0 grind, I should say, for the Orc squad, who managed to grab a much-needed win here, setting their record up to 2-0-2, which also puts them in second place of their division. Now, we're going to go on down to the final matchup of A&E versus Tar and Feather, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! Coached by Matt Zucador, the Skaven team, with a one-turner on there, up against yours truly and Baphomets Bestowed, the first place Tar and Feather division team. And this game started out pretty rough for Yu-Gi-Oh! First play of the game, they won the coin toss and kicked to us, the Chaos Squad, and we killed a lineman right off. And then, we broke some more armor, caged up, punched some Skaven, knocked more off the pitch, and slowly marched our way down the field. And then there's one turn left in the first half because we received, and the Skaven does have a one-turner. We lined up in our one-turn defense, but the Skaven said he didn't care. He's got all kinds of skills, sprint, GFI, move up, and he just went for it, and he scored to tie it up. And then we kicked in the second half, the Chaos team, we kicked over to Yu-Gi-Oh! And this was about the time that the dice and the armor started breaking even more for Yu-Gi-Oh! as the Chaos managed to crunch their way on through. They set up for a one turn and went for it and tried to go for it, but they just couldn't handle the ball with the gutter runners. And the Chaos Beastmen managed to get their way in and grab the ball and score pretty quick, making it 2-1, which was definitely a mistake by myself. I should have, held out and held on to the ball much longer and just stalled the game out and scored late. But my train of thought was that the one-turner would score again, even with my one-turn offense set up, or defense set up, and then I would get the ball back and make a 3-2 win. But that was not the case, because there was like 4 or 5 turns left, and it actually took them 4 turns to score a one-turn touchdown, because we set up in a one-turn defense and were way away from the ball, and the story repeated itself that they were not able to pick the ball up very easily. And so they actually cast all of my linemen, the 3 that I set up. I even moved a Chaos Warrior down, and he got cast out of the play. And then on the very, very final turn, there was a small gap in my defense where he only had to make like 1 or 2 dodges, and he made his way through and got the 2-2 draw there in the first place matchup. Now the Ancient Empire's divisions layout standings, as well as the Tar and Feathered standings, will be Jonah 2005 UK Haunting of Men, 4-0-0 first place, followed by me, 2-1-1 in first place at Tar and Feather. Now we got Fantastic Dr. J at NBP Park Live, 2-0-2 out of Ancient Empires, followed by Rebel Knight and Turf Pirates, 1-2-1 Tar and Feather. Now, Legend T969 and Nagarath Bolts, they're 1-2-1, followed by Wansea and Thundercats OFC, 1-1-2 for third place of each division respectively. And then Matt Zucador and Yu-Gi-Oh! 0-2-2, and Play Bear and The Cure 1-0-3. That's your fourth place squads. So if I have enough time on my camera, let me check. We're going to go into the next round matchups. Even though they are posted in the Discord, we're going to get those covered for you, because I know you all are kind of curious to see who those will be. And you may have already been doing the math on this episode. Let me double check my camera that it's not yelling at me here. I should have just enough time. There's 20-something. This is 23 minutes. We'll try to keep this under 30 minutes. So, Ancient Empires versus Tar and Feather. The first place matchups are Jonah 2005 UK Haunting of Men versus me. Second place is Fantastic Dr. J and NBP Park Life going up against Rebel Knight and Turf Pirates. Then we got Legend T969 and Nagarath Bolts going up against Wansea and the Thundercats FC for the third place. Matt Zucador and Yu-Gi-Oh! Going it up against Play Bear and The Cure. Followed by, I'm going to scroll on down the list here so I get the next matchups. Followed by Beheaded Kings versus Deep Dark. We got the first place matchups in Pong Hines and Orion Magics going up against Kamikozy and Get Confident Stupid. Followed by Wheelie 365 Boxing Clever up against DKM 96 and Malevolent Malware. Third place matchups are Blake Nuts 666 A Bag of Chodes up against Shushnik and In the Shadows. Then we got the fourth place matchups, Kodak Cookie, Small and Mighty up against Cook 9000 and NWO. We also have Bubba Tattoo and the Polyneer Keg Killers. This is our Cold Hearts versus Saltworks matchup for first place, up against Fury of Anon and Morks Orcs. Second place is JG 1357 and Halloween Plebs up against second place Knockout Joe, Praise the Joe. And then third place, Omega Deviant and Blood Moo Wanderers, which a note there, they have actually left the league. They will be replaced by Dan, the Stan Boyd X, and his Wood Elf squad is going to be taking their place, the third place there in Cold Hearts. They'll be going up against Godzillos and Blitz Among Us. So third place again is going to be now Dan, and his Wood Elf teams, I believe his dev squad is called Proud Pagans, but I think his pro team is Something's Finest. I'll have that for sure on the next episode because he's still deving up a squad. He's playing 4 games to make up for, like, he played a pro season and then hopping up in to the pros there for the next week, week 5. Fourth place matchups out of Cold Hearts versus Saltworks is S130 South and Wapley Wanderers up against Joe Cole and the Meat Men. The total matchup records for this one and the aggregate score right now is Old World in total adding up the games is 7, 3, and 2 with a total of 15 touchdowns and 8 against. Now, the New World is, of course, the opposite of that, 2, 3, and 7 with 8 touchdowns and 15 against. So currently, Old World is blowing New World out of the water in the aggregate score for these intra-conference, U.S. versus EU matchups. Will New World be able to turn the tide next week in the 1 through 4s versus 1 through 4s? We'll have to see, because there's a lot of first place teams going head to head, and we may see some of them fall. I don't think we'll see a lot of draws. That's just my prediction. I don't think there'll be a whole lot of draws. I think it will be mostly, wins for one of the teams on each side. But I think that's about all I got covered for you. I've got the standings listed in the Discord. We'll go over those just real quick because I have them here. We'll just do league standings. You can see the rest in the Discord. So league standing wise, top place, first overall in the league. We'll do top 5 as always. Jonah 2005 UK Haunting of Men. They're 4-0. Followed by Common Cozy and Get Confident Stupid. The returning champions are also 4-0. So that's kind of a tie for first place. They only 2 touchdowns and some SPP separate them. Third place is Bubba Tattoo, Pollinaire Keg Killers. They're 3-1-0. Followed by Pong Hines and the Orion Magics. They're 2-2-0. And then Fury of Anon in 5th place is Morks Works. They're 3-0-1. And then honorable mention there, 6th place JG and Halloween Plebs are also 3-0-1. So they've just had 3 touchdowns scored against them compared to 1. That's really the kind of factor. Now, of course, tiebreakers themselves will go down to like total SPP. But we're only adding that up when we need it because it is a lot of math to go through and add every single team's total SPP earned through every game up. So only if we really need to tie break some divisions for playoff spots will we go over that, as well as, seeding and all of that. But that's pretty much all I've got for you. If you want to see the full league standings, 1 all the way to 24, it is in the Discord. If you want to see the Old World Conference and New World Conference division standings or total standings for those, they're also in the Discord in the appropriate channels. I want to give a quick shout out to the Delph Mental competition. There's still just an eensy-weensy little bit of time left to dev up some elf teams for that. Again, there'll be 16 to 20 teams in that. 4 to 5 divisions based on how many teams we have. You'll play 3 games of round robin play, and then the top 3 teams from every division will go on to play 2 rounds of Swiss. And then from that, the top 8 teams left go to a knockout to determine the best elf coach in NBP/PS4, because I think we're the only elf league running, and we've kind of recruited to a bunch of other leagues to, say, hey, you can come play in our Elf Cup. So will another league claim our Elf Cup, our Elf Championship? We'll have to see. But other than that, that's all I got for you. I started recording like just about midnight, and it's almost 1 now. It's like 12:50. So I think this episode is about 30 minutes. I hope these long episodes are not too taxing on you guys to watch. I hope you're still enjoying them. I hope you're enjoying the musical intros. I hope you're enjoying everything about the show, because that's why I do it. I do it for your entertainment, and if you don't like it, let me know what I can do to change it so you do like it. Because, of course, if I have no audience, there's no reason to do this. But, again, a league is as good as its coaches, and NBP, I believe, has some of the best coaches on PS4. I do enjoy running this league for all of you, and I do very much appreciate that you all participate, because it's a very, very nice system we have going, and I'd love to keep it going for a few more seasons till that PS5 and Blood Bowl 3 come out, and then, we can maybe make the jump. But we'll get into all that when it gets closer to time and we actually get a confirmed date for Blood Bowl 3. And also see how many people plan on jumping over, and if it even backwards compats with PS4/Blood Bowl 2. But, as always, if you liked it, hit the thumbs up. If you hated it, hit that thumbs down. Leave a comment below what you thought of it. And I hope you enjoy. Sorry it's a little late, guys, but I'm sure you'll see it in the Discord and watch it when you watch it. You have a good one.